another video training tip. Today we're going to be talking about polite leading and handling, and we're going to break this exercise down into 3 different parts. Today I have with me my special partner, Captain Beep Beep, and he's going to be here with us to help demonstrate the backup cue. But before we start doing so, I wanted to just go over what tools I'm using today in order for you to be better prepared and how to teach this lesson. The first thing that Beep is outfitted in is my Peaceful Solutions clip halter, along with my 10-foot lead rope. I also have a dressage whip, which I'm going to put to the side for a second, so we can talk about how to hold the lead rope. So in order to be safe during this lesson, because a lot of times horses will pull or drag the handler, and we want to make sure to ensure that we are using the lead rope properly and safely. So I'm just going to throw the lead rope out to the end, and we're going to start from the beginning. All lead ropes will have the clip, obviously, so you're going to go about an arm's distance length from your fingers to your elbow, and that's going to be the space that you're going to leave between the clip and where you start looping your lead rope. So I'm going to go 2 loops, 1, 2, and I'm going to switch to holding the lead rope loops in my left hand. Okay, the reason why I do so is then I can let go of each loop and have a longer lead rope if I choose. So I can go to the end of my lead rope if needed and have a longer end to my lead rope, or I can coil it quickly to be able to get to my clip. One of the things that I see that's a kind of a major mistake when you're dealing with anything that has to do with asking your horse to lead properly is I see everybody really close to their horses, and I see them holding the clips really, really tight. Most horses don't like this because it makes them feel claustrophobic. It makes them feel like they can't get away from you. So it's kind of like taking a 2-liter soda bottle, shaking it up, taking the cap off, and the fizz just explodes. So what I like to do is give them just a little bit of leeway. When we do teach this backup cue, my whole goal for the end result is not to put pressure on the lead rope. Now, if I do need to put pressure here and there in a teaching process, that's fine. But my end goal is going to be that I don't use the lead rope to back him up. Okay, now I'm going to go for my dressage whip. And the dressage whip is basically just used as an extension of my hand or an extension of my arm, and it's just to make me longer, so that when I go to ask Beep for the lightest possible cue, which is pointing at his 2 front feet, then I can go right away and ask for the phases to get bigger and bolder. Okay, so what I mean by that is I'm always going to start with the lightest phase of cues that I'd like my end result to be. If I need to, though, I'm going to up the ante a little bit in order to get a response out of my horse. The second that he responds, I'm going to take that stimulus away, basically, or what I'm using as a motivator to make him move, and I'm going to go back to the lightest possible pressure. Beep has boots on today. He has his Pegasus boots on. And the reason why I outfitted him in his Pegasus boots is just so you can see the area in which I'm going to be tapping. So when you start this cue, the best thing to do is start it in an area that you're enclosed in, obviously, and your end result is going to be that Beep and I have an imaginary line here, which extends from his nose to my shoulder. Okay, if Beep puts his body in front of me, then I'm going to go to my break or my backup cue and ask him to back until he's even with me. If he ends up dragging and lagging behind me, then I'm going to go to the next cue, which is to ask him to come forward, and that's your gas pedal cue, which will be in the next set of videos. So in order to teach this cue first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my loops, and I'm going to go to the clip. This is just so I can steer his nose and keep him more in a space where I have control of his head and neck. As this lesson progresses, you won't need to keep that feel, and you can go to a loop in the rein or a loop in the lead rope. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to point at the boots, basically below his knee. In this area is where I'm going to begin my tapping process. It doesn't matter which leg you tap. Normally I go to the leg that's further forward, and you're going to keep tapping until you get a response. So in other words, I'm going to point. Beep didn't respond. So I'm going to begin tapping the blue boots until he takes 2 steps back. Once he takes 2 steps back, I'm going to immediately put the whip at my side, out of reach of him, and I'm going to praise him and pet him and tell him, thank you, yes, buddy. Okay, I'm going to repeat this whole exercise over and over again. Point, tap, he takes 2 steps back, I'm going to praise him and tell him thank you. So you're going to repeat this over and over again. If in the point of the process, when you point, the horse starts to back like Beep just did, take the whip away and say thank you. This is the phase of the exercise where you've really gotten to the point where you can start teaching the horse to come forward. So once we're at that phase, then you can start teaching the go forward cue, which we will teach in the next segment of exercises. Hi, buddy. One of the things that I want to go over is the fact that I also go one step further with this. I'm going to create an imaginary line that runs right down the middle of Beep's 2 front feet. You're okay, buddy. And I want his head and neck to stay on that line. So in other words, if Beep goes and turns his head to the right, he's thinking about leaving me. Okay, and what's going to follow is the horse is going to pull away from you and you're going to end up winding up behind it, skiing. Okay, if the horse's head comes towards me, then he's thinking about coming over the top of me. And what's going to happen is the shoulder is going to position itself and the horse is going to end up running over the top of you. So I'm really strict about where I'd like the placement of his head and neck. Beep and I have this imaginary wall that goes right here in between us. So if he comes into my space, I'm going to tell him to get back to the center on that line. So the entire time that I'm asking for him to back up with this set of cues, I'm going to keep his head and neck on that imaginary line so that he learns to keep his head and neck where it should be. Now, everybody always says to me, come on up here, Beep. I'm a little afraid to do that because I like my horse to be affectionate, loving. I like to praise my horse. I like to cuddle on my horse and hug my horse. And I always say that's fantastic, but do it on your terms. So in other words, Beep, I can invite in here any moment of any time and say, yes, Beep, you're great, you're fabulous, but I'm done, and now you go back to your spot. That way, you're always ensuring that the horse stays on that line. Now, one of the steps that's going to follow this exercise, and this becomes extremely important, if the horse needs you to back up with them, in other words, point, tap, and back up with them, if they're having a hard time with this exercise, in the beginning phases, go ahead and do so. But as the exercise progresses, I want to stay where I'm starting at the line of his nose, okay? I stay on my line, and I ask Beep to back up behind my line. 2 steps. This is going to put him in a spot where we have this space here. Okay, if I turn forward, Beep is not in my area of movement. So in other words, he can't really get himself in trouble because he's not putting himself in the cookie jar, okay? So he can't really nudge me or bite me or nibble on me or take his nice green slimy slime and wipe it all over my pretty show shirt when I'm at the show. So a lot of times I see people fighting with their horses for no reason. If you just put them in a spot where they can't get in trouble, you don't have to reprimand or tell them not to do so. So I will always go a step further here and ensure that my horse is always 2 steps behind me. If I need to go back here and praise or do whatever I need to do, that's fine. But our line is going to become, when I ask Beep to move in response to that pressure and I turn and face him, I want him to immediately back up those 2 steps so he's not in my area. And that becomes extremely important. So I hope those starting cues help. It's great to take your horse along the fence line, and you can keep your horse parallel to the fence line. That way, if your horse swings its hip or moves, the fence line will help to keep them straight. So you want to practice doing that exercise 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Keep going until it gets really, really good, until you can turn, look at the chest, point, the horse backs up. If they don't, begin to tap. Once they do, take that pressure away, make sure that the nose is on the line, praise the horse and tell them they're fantastic. And I will catch you on the next video tutorial to teach you how to tell your horse to come forward off of the whip cue. So the next phase of exercise, be sure to follow, and I will explain the next starting points of how to get your horse to come forward. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and visit my website at TaraJonesTraining.com. Thank Beep for coming today to help us out on this video. He's always a pleasure to have. And once again, I'm Tara Jones from Peaceful Solutions. See you next time, guys. Bye-bye.